I'm Jocelyn Hyde. I'm chair of 7 Senate District DFL. Interesting mouthful if you say that quickly. Welcome to our event tonight. And thank you for joining us here. We're here to celebrate our successes from last year, and there are many. We elected Jen McEwen to the Minnesota Senate. We re-elected Liz Olson and Jennifer Schultz to the Minnesota House of Representatives. We have a great legislative team. We elected Ashley Grimm to the St. Louis County Board, and we've re-elected Patrick Boyle to that same board. And most important, we kept Duluth blue for President Joe Biden, which was a great change. So you can see that the DFL has momentum here in Duluth, and we're here tonight to keep that momentum going. With your help and your support, that's just what we're going to do. We'll elect leaders that will fight for DFL values and ideals to make life better for everyone. As Paul Wellstone famously said, we all do better when we all do better. And that's very true. So we need leaders that are going to fight for accessible, affordable healthcare, for a green energy economy, for affordable housing, for all the things that makes life work for all of us. And most importantly, for a strong democracy, one that's inclusive, has opportunity for all, where there's solidarity between us, not just here in Duluth, but in Minnesota and in our country as a whole. And after the January 6th insurrection, that is a concern. So I'm telling you tonight, we do need DFL candidates to win elections because it does matter and it does make a difference. Please consider donating using the link that you'll see on the screen there or in the chat. Every dollar helps. Every dollar helps people that we need elected get elected. It's easy to do, and you don't have to do it tonight. You can do it anytime. So save that information. I'd also like at this point to thank our sponsors for the event, the Duluth Central Labor Body and the Duluth for Clean Water, as well as Chris Rubish. Thank you to all our sponsors for helping us with this event, and Jen McEwen, of course. You can donate while you go through our great lineup of guests that we have coming here. And now I'm going to hand it over to our host for the evening, St. Louis County Commissioner, Ashley Grimm. Take it away, Ashley.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have the pleasure of getting to introduce first our amazing slate of school board candidates. Before doing that, though, I just want to let everybody know that there is there's our dessert auction. I know usually we get to do that in person. Today we're going to do it online. We've got people who are able to run desserts the night of if people want. Otherwise, you'll be connected with the person who made your dessert. I promise I didn't choose to put myself in the middle, but it is a pretty good Bernie cake. We have an amazing spread there. So go online. There's going to be links on Zoom. I'm sure we'll put links on the Facebook page too, so you can give and you can also bid on some of those dessert auctions with friends. So tonight we have heard a lot about our candidates' positions, but we wanted to share who our candidates are as people, and kind of what better way than we asked them to join to answer some questions and share their school photos. Kelly Eder is in there as her current photo, but we didn't give much time. So thanks everybody for submitting your photos. And then, so to our candidates, do you mind unmuting? And we're just gonna get to know you a little bit and ask you some of our questions.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ashley. It's great being here.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm gonna put you on gallery view real quick so I can hear everybody. I'm kind of curious, we got to see your school photos. Could each person take a moment and share who their favorite band was in high school? Rosie, do you want to kick that off?
Okay, well, by my hair in my senior graduation picture,
you can see that I graduated in 1979. So I would say one of the bands was ABBA.
Oh, that's a classic. Hey, Kelly.
Hi, gosh, that's a really good question. So I grew up in North Dakota, so I listened to a lot of country music. I was the runner-up for Miss Rodeo High School in North Dakota. So let's just say I listened to a lot of country music, Garth Brooks, and then I also like to listen to like The Doors, Nirvana. So I had sort of a wide breadth of music choices.
My first album was Reba McEntire, so I can relate.
Yeah, I still listen to Reba.
Amber, do you want to go next?
Yeah, are we talking about favorite bands? I was trying to get unmuted and everything, so.
Yeah, who in high school was one of your favorite bands?
I would say probably Green Day, actually. So I was kind of introduced to Green Day through joining the cross country team in 9th grade. I grew up in a really small town, so we partnered with another town and just got to know different kids, different music, and that was really fun. One of my favorite musical memories from growing up, though, is my parents would play, my mom specifically would play ZZ Top for me at night to go to bed. So.
That's awesome. Jill, what was your favorite band in high school?
Okay, yeah. I'm kind of like, and I'm still very much, more into Broadway musicals and, kind of that. But, and again, I grew up too, and my parents, we didn't have a lot of music opportunities. I wasn't someone who got a stereo for their birthday. And so I think, I used to have to listen to my dad's Burl Ives and Jim Reeves. And so but I'm kind of like a Neil Diamond and a Bobby Sherman. So not bands, but still classic. I still listen to Neil Diamond. So that's it.
We know you all are doing fantastic work with youth. I'm curious, who was one of your biggest role models growing up? And how do you think it helped shape you? Yeah, Rosie?
Sure. Well, this was a hard one because I had a lot of teachers that were big influences in my life. But the person I wanted to share about was actually my mom, because my mom raised 10 kids. She raised 7 of us after my dad died. And my mom did not have a high school degree, either did my dad. They were not able to finish. But she was so proud, as well as my dad, of supporting, making sure us kids had a good public education. And her biggest regret when she died when she was 84 was that she didn't go back and get her her high school graduation. And so I always say education is very personal for me, because I'm a first generation college student. My mom was at my graduation for high school and for college and for my master's degree a few years ago, and just really valued education and just the struggles she had in her life. She was very smart in so many ways, and very rich in education and other life ways. And I feel like I've benefited from that, as well as I just appreciated how she really valued all of us kids having a good public education. And that's what I want as a school board member for everybody.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you for sharing that. And we can popcorn it, whoever would like to go next.
So I'll go. So good question too, just like Rosie. So I'm going to say it is my sister Patty. And some of you might know her because she is very active and was active in DFL. She's 5 years older than I am. So she was married actually when I was probably in 8th grade. And she then became much more my parent. She was the one that brought this teenage girl into somewhat understanding what all of those female things are all about. My mom kind of didn't even address those things. So all of that. My sister was the one that taught me how to put eye makeup on, eyeliner, mascara. She was the one that bought me all the cool clothes, because She was already out of the house and working at North Shore Bank or Northwestern Bank or something. And she'd go to and buy me the cooler clothes because my mom wouldn't do that. And I can remember that she bought me my graduation pictures because in 1972, when I graduated, the steel plant shut down, and I was so disconnected to what that meant that I was insulted that my parents couldn't afford the grad package. And so Patty was the one that helped me through all of that. And so she's just always been a role model. And then, fast forward to, she was always the political one, 12 years as a Carleton County Commissioner, 6 years on the ESCO school board. I was not the one that was going to step forward and run for a school board. So, but she in my first campaign was my manager, my driver. And so just a shout out to Patty and all that she's given to the DFL. Patty Murto is my role model.
That's amazing. I have one sister who is 5 years older than me too. And I remember trying to follow her like fashion. And I just remember her saying, "Beauty is pain," as she was like tightly braiding my hair. Kelly or Amber?
I can go next. I was going to share about it was really hard to pick someone because I did have so many amazing teachers growing up. And one specifically is Mr. Hillstrom. Looking back, I mean, all the hours he spent coaching us in cross country and taking us on all those road trips. So it was just really hard to pick, but I chose my grandpa. Actually, he grew up in the Great Depression, and a lot of you may have heard of the Civilian Conservation Corps, which I believe Roosevelt developed to kind of overcome the Great Depression and provide work opportunities for young men back then, and send the money home. And so my grandfather was only 13 or 14 at the time, maybe a little older, but he was the oldest. And so he joined the CCCs and was sending the money back home. And that's what really got their family through the Great Depression. And but it always stuck with him. He never finished high school, and that kind of weighed on him his whole life. And he talked about that a lot, and he talked about the importance of an education and hard work. He ended up joining the Army and getting some skills as a mechanical engineer that way, but it always was with him his whole life that he never graduated from high school. And he always talked about how important it is to have a really good education. And it really has just fueled my passion for really having really good public schools. So
that's awesome. Conservation Corps work is so amazing. I've seen my niece go through it. It's what brought my husband to Minnesota, actually. It's a really incredible program. That's really cool.
Would you like me to go now?
Yeah.
Hi. So my role model is my mother. So she is a biochemist, and she went to graduate school back in the late 60s, early 70s. And at that time, there weren't a lot of women sort of going through graduate school for something like biochemistry or chemistry. She has always taught me my entire life that you get back up again. Like, stuff happens, so you get back up again and you go back at it. And that it's important to always take a minute and reflect, and always take ownership of your part of a problem. Always, acknowledging your humility a little bit. But she always just taught me to get back up again. And she's 80 years old now, and she still throws a saddle on a horse, rides. She is just a really incredible, tough woman. So she's definitely a role model for me. And then I have another woman that I look up to. Her name is Diane Verteen, and she's been a college administrator, and just somebody who was very much influential on me about how to sort of navigate through the world as a professional woman. So those are probably my two.
This makes me want to have a party with everyone's families and just get to know. So we have time for about one more question. I'm curious, what is an issue you'd like to take on during your upcoming term? Do we want to go in opposite rotation this time?
Sure, I can start with that one. So as I've been talking a lot through my campaign, we were lucky that the federal government supported us with ESSER funding, and we took a lot of that ESSER funding and then went one-to-one devices starting in the 3rd grade to 12th grade. And what I think we all as a board acknowledge, and we've talked a lot about, is how do we support that technology long-term? After the pandemic, K through 12 public education is going to look very different, probably similar to what happened to college education. The integration of technology, distance, the ability to have students at different places, doing different things and using technology as that platform, we have to start thinking about funding technology the same way that we think about funding our buildings, because it's going to be that integral to K through 12 public education. And not only do we have to think about how to fund the hardware, but we also have to make sure that we are teaching and allowing our teachers to have the professional development that they need. We have one of the most educated teacher workforces in the state of Minnesota, and we want to make sure that when we give them this technology, we teach them the tools they need so they can be innovative for our kids. So that's what it is. Technology funding, really wild, fun stuff.
But very important work, and it definitely needs to be, looked at going forward, how to sustain it. So thanks, Kelly.
Absolutely.
I guess, definitely I would want to work on that as well. As far as technology, it's really important to kind of look ahead and kind of see how to fund those technologies, because they get outdated so quickly. One of my main focuses though, and I know it's been a focus of the district, so I just really look forward to working with our current board members, if elected, on kind of addressing the opportunity gap. And one way that I think that we could do that is just by collaborating even more, deepening our partnerships with community organizations, elders in our community that have a lot of wisdom to offer, maybe creating a coalition or something so that we can all kind of come together. I think that it's a really important issue to look at. It's really, obviously the school district is really engaged in that work, but I think that we can engage the community in that work too. So I really look forward to working with our school district leadership and board on that if elected.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So this is such a great format to kind of just listen to women that I have been campaigning with and working with, and hearing us kind of zoom into a few things. So certainly my two predecessors here on this question, but for me too, I was gonna, if you ask that second question about passion and what you're passionate about, that would segue into this. I'm passionate about communication. I'm passionate. It's not the biggest issue, like I would say equity and our blended learning and our technology, but I am going to focus too on just our ability to communicate effectively to our community, to kind of encourage that enrollment. We've struggled with decreasing enrollment, and I think there's a lot of other reasons why, but I also want to say that if we were having a better product out there, better marketing, and not that we don't, we have an incredible woman that runs our communication department, but she's one woman. That is all that our district has for our communication and marketing, and she does a phenomenal job, but there's too much for her to continue to embrace. And one of the things is our social media, our Facebook, our websites for all of our elementaries, middle schools, and high schools are really done at the whim of whoever is in the buildings that can take on that extra website and that updating. And that needs to be addressed. We need consistent, and we need that marketing and that communication, and just that focus on how we can improve in bringing new families, especially to enroll in Duluth Public Schools and to live within Duluth. And I'm excited about the potential of growth and enrollment with some, if you were at our board meeting last night, you saw Saturday Properties and some of their work is being done. They're telling us what they're doing on the Hill, and we see some development in Spirit and Riverside and at the bottom of Spirit Mountain where there's development going on. And we in the Lincoln Park area, we're just exploding with some positivity and passion for Duluth. And we've got to make sure that they're going to Duluth Public Schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, great. I will start this by just saying I too have felt very privileged to work with the slate of candidates, the DFL candidates that I'm working with. And I was outdoor knocking today with Kelly, been out with Amber. And so we learn a lot from each other as we're outdoor knocking together. So in terms of, and I've been on the board for 8 years, so I've seen and been a part of a lot of initiatives by our school district with technology, with the opportunity gap, with selling buildings. And I think the last few years, I've loved the expansion we've done on early childhood. I've loved the expansion we've done on full service community schools. I've loved being a part of our creating our immersion programs. And so I will continue working to expand those initiatives that are all equity driven initiatives. But one of the other areas I'm very passionate about is our career and technical programs. We offer many kinds of pathways for our students who are college bound, who are community college bound.
Rosie, I think you broke up a little bit. But thank you. I think we heard some fantastic ideas from Rosie. I just want to say it is a pleasure to see all of you and to get to know you on a deeper level. Thank you for sharing the stories about your passion, about your families. And it's really exciting to see the DFL be a slate of such powerful and passionate women. And when I ran for the county board, over half of counties in Minnesota, county boards in Minnesota had no women on them. And then going in this role and then working with passionate school board members as we've ramped up Check and Connect, I'm just really excited about what the future will bring. So thank you to everyone who is serving currently. Amber, I'm excited to see you on the school board too. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to listening to all of our talks tonight.
We've got a good slate tonight.
And hey, I just want to plug my almond cake in the dessert auction.
Yes. So that segues perfectly. So we have, obviously we have fantastic candidates, and this does not happen without all of us getting behind them. So please consider making a donation to SD7. There's the link here. There's the link on Zoom. I'm sure we'll be putting the link on Facebook as well. You can mail a check if you want to do it old school. And then also the dessert auction is still open, like Rosie said. There's Sally Munger's famous cookies are back on there. There's this amazing one. I might bid on this orange chocolate ganache one. I mean, there's a fantastic spread. So please take a moment to check that out too. And then I would like to introduce, we're going to be hearing from some fantastic DFL folks tonight. We're going to kick it off with our state representative, Liz Olson, who I've been really lucky to work with. And I just want to say, whenever there is a county issue, and I talked to our lobbyist, John Ungaro, 90% of the time he says either Liz Olson or Jen Schultz are on it. Like, I do the work that I do at the county, knowing that we have incredibly strong leadership at the state level that's backing up our local governments, whether or not it's for education, public health, and human services. So with that, I would like to introduce Liz Olson. And then Liz, since spoiler, I'm not great at technology, do you mind unmuting yourself? And then you should be able to pop up. Otherwise, Dale.
Okay, great. There we go. Yay. You'd think after I'd have this figured out. So good to see everybody. I have to say it's awesome to be following the school board candidates, because thank you for running and putting everything you are into it, whether you're a first-time candidate or running again. It's hard. This is hard work for all of the candidates across the board. I see you out there hustling, and you're, as I was reminded by one candidate today, under 2 weeks to the finish line. And so yay, keep pushing. And for all of us that need to sign up for that door knock shift or donate that money, this is our last cry for that. And it's really exciting to see you all working so hard. I think every weekend I seem to have someone knocking at my door or knocking at my neighbor's door. And so I can see you all out there working hard, and thank you for doing that, because I think Ashley nailed it. It's a partnership. That we're as strong as we are when we have great people at all levels of government, which I just think our DFL crop of candidates, the people we have in office now, are just top notch, and it's a delight to work with so many of you. So I'm Liz Olson. For those that don't know, I'm in my 3rd term in the Minnesota House, and I have the pleasure of serving with an all-woman delegation. But not only are they all women, they're whip smart, they're strong, they're collaborative, and just a delight to work with. And I'm glad to be partnering with them in this work. I also want to put in a plug for the dessert auction. But I don't want to tell you what I'm bidding on, because I don't want you to outbid me. But it is one of my favorite desserts of all year. So I'm so glad it's back this year, and I'm not going to tell you about it. But I will post a picture, hopefully, when I win it or win something else. So definitely make sure you donate to SD7. They are incredibly helpful in the mailers they did last year when we had a big slate of us running, getting the word out, coordinating the door knocks. And so can't say enough about that and the good energy they put into it. And so I also want to say, I mean, we do have the pleasure, as was introduced right out the gate, that we have a strong DFL base here, and that's great, but it is not something we should take for granted. We need to talk to as many people as we can, because we also know without if we wouldn't have a DFL governor and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, if we didn't have a DFL House, which we lost seats in the last election, we could look a lot like Texas. There are bills that are being introduced in the Republican Senate. They're just as nasty as we're seeing across the nation. And so it doesn't mean we get to rest on our heels here in Duluth because we're blue. We work hard, and we have to work hard as Democrats to elect Democrats up and down the ballot. And especially in these elections and the midterms next year, it will make a difference on what Minnesota looks like. It means having Governor Walz in charge during a global pandemic, keeping us safe, and having what we need, that leadership at the top and at the legislative level, because we see what can happen when we have good, strong progressives and the kind of change we can make in people's lives. But we can also see the other side of that with other states that didn't have that, in that they saw a really fatal handling of the global pandemic. So it's not to say we shouldn't be excited. This is awesome. We have great people. It's that, and we want to make sure that we keep engaging, we keep the energy up, we keep espousing our values and our beliefs and our vision for what's possible, so that we can continue to put that out there, because we know that's what resonates with Minnesotans. So I just want to say it's an absolute pleasure to be here again with all of you. I wish we were eating our desserts in a ballroom somewhere together and sharing our cakes and doing all of that. But keep working for all those candidates, for all of us not on the ballot this year. This is our year to do what we can to support them and keep Duluth blue, keep Minnesota blue, and support. And I'm excited to see my colleague, a couple more from here, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan is joining us tonight too, which is super exciting. So, and a shout out to the Gens, who are a delight to work with. And with that, I think I'm introducing my colleague, Representative Jen Schultz, who came in one term before me and has been a mentor and a friend throughout. And it's always a delight to work with now Chair Schultz. So take it away.
Well, thank you, Liz, for that introduction. Really happy to be with everyone tonight. Good evening. Again, my name's Jen Schultz. I'm a state representative for the east part of Duluth District 7A. And this past year, I've been chairing Human Services, Finance, and Policy. And I'm really, really sad that we can't be together again this year, chatting and dishing up dessert. But I really do look forward to this event every year. And I hope we can get together in 2022, because I miss everyone. We have an incredible group of candidates running, DFL candidates, very progressive, very motivated, and just having finished parent-teacher conferences this week, I've been so impressed with my son's teachers and how much energy they have and dedication, because education really is the foundation that we need to build from. And it is so important. As a college educator myself, I know how important that pre-K through 12 education is, and really looking forward to this great group of candidates. And I want to thank them all for running for office and just putting themselves out there. It is not easy running and being an elected official, particularly at the local level, a school board and city council. So thank you everyone for running. We have accomplished really great things this year and last year, and we can do that because we have a really strong Duluth delegation with Representative and Chair Mary Murphy, Representative Olson, Senator McEwen, and our great leadership with Speaker Melissa Hortman. I'm really looking forward to going back next year and working on a strong bonding bill so we can put labor to work. We can do things that value Minnesota families and workers. And I just want to mention a few things that we should be proud of that happened this year in the health and human services space. So we were really fortunate to get close to $700 million in federal funds to spend in health and human services space. And because we have democratically elected President Joe Biden and a strong federal group of elected officials that know we need to make those important investments in families across the country. We increased the MFIP COLA increase, we increased wages for PCAs, we increased dental reimbursement, we put in $400 million for home and community-based services. We really addressed the social determinants of health, and we put money towards homelessness and housing, poverty, so many great things to really boost up and raise opportunities for individuals across the state. We did a lot in the mental health space and substance abuse treatment space. And I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of all the policies, but I just want you to know you should be really proud of the investments we're making at the state level to make sure we continue down the right path of building a Minnesota that works for everyone. And that's really what I've been committed to, is making sure we address all of the inequities and disparities we have across the state. And we should be proud of the House DFL team. We declared last year that racism is a public health crisis. We are determined and driven to look at every policy we pass, every bill, every budget item to see if it addresses inequity and disparities, and really make sure Minnesota can lead the way across the country in doing good things for everyone in the state. I am very optimistic and hopeful that we can continue down this very progressive path that we're building in Minnesota. And I am very, very grateful that we have a really strong, young, progressive group in our DFL House Caucus that are pushing for reforms in this state. People are really tired of waiting for what will happen at the federal level, and they're really getting engaged and active in state policy making. And I look forward to working with all of you next year and in the future to make sure we can continue making Minnesota work for everyone. And I'm so grateful to work with such strong, amazing people at the Capitol and our Duluth delegation, and looking forward to making those connections, working with our county commissioners, our city council members, our school board members, and our county commissioners. And I'm so proud of all of you for holding office, getting elected, and doing great things for our community. I love Duluth, and so glad I can be in this wonderful progressive community, and look forward to seeing everyone soon. So thanks again, everyone, and hopefully I'll see you at my door as well. And I'm going to turn it back to Ashley, I believe, and she's going to introduce Senator McEwen.
Thank you so much, Representatives Schultz and Olson. It is my pleasure to also get to introduce our state senator, Jen McEwen, who I met when I was on the Human Rights Commission And we really needed someone with legal chops to help us get protections for people experiencing homelessness. And we had really hit a wall. And then Jen McEwen came into our lives and she helped make that possible. And what I had yet to realize is that that's what she had spent her career doing and would continue to do, is fight for folks who are marginalized, fight for everyday working people, and against the systems that are not serving us. And so it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Senator Jen McEwen. I must have gave a really bad introduction because she left. So I know.
Can people hear me?
Yeah, yep. I think
Can people hear me?
A little. Yep, there was just a glitch for a second. So now we can see and hear you.
Ash, I'm sorry. Maybe it's my connection. That was such a gracious, such a nice introduction. Very humbling. Thank you so much, Ashley. I really, really appreciate it. And I just right back at you. I was just going to tell everybody that I enjoyed so much our work together on working on the Homeless Persons Bill of Rights, and with that group of organizers, and that was really, really wonderful. And that's also where I learned that Commissioner Grimm is a really wonderful person to have working with you. She doesn't take any flack and really is a fighter. So hello, everybody. It is so nice to join everyone this evening for our Solon Munger Fundraiser. I am just so pleased to join all of you. And I can't say it any better than Representative Olson and Representative Schultz said in regard to a couple of issues. One is just wanting to thank all of the people who are running for office and in office right now. Our city councilors, our city council candidates, school board members, school board candidates. I echo what Representative Olson said. We all know, those of us who have campaigned and do campaign work, that it's hard stuff, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of your emotional energy, and the collaboration and time and all of that. So I couldn't ask for a better group of people here in Duluth to be in this work with. And so thank you all so much for everything you put into your work at the council, on the school board, in your campaigns to make our community a better place. It shows, it really shows that everybody is putting that work in and that effort in. And I also just want to say a quick thank you to an acknowledgement about our legislative team. Representative Olson and Representative Schultz have been so gracious and so welcoming with me coming in to my first term as a state senator this past January. They've mentored me, they've walked me through different procedural things that happen at the state capitol, and have just been really gracious with their time. And I just appreciate working with both of them so much. They bring so much knowledge, institutional knowledge and experience under their belts. We're very lucky to have both of them in office. The expertise that they bring really, it delivers for our community in major ways. And so thank you to both of them. I'll just speak briefly here because our keynote speaker, I'm really excited to hear from our keynote speaker, and I'll be introducing her in just a moment. But one thing that I'd just really like to focus in on a little bit and expand on is that we all know that here in Duluth, as we heard just a minute ago, we're very fortunate to live in this very progressive community that has shown over and over again to be very forward looking, right? And we banter around the word progressive, and that means different things to different people. But in general, we do live in a very progressive community. I know this summer when we had some the group coming that wanted to rabble rouse around critical race theory and make up an issue for people to be upset about. our community basically responded by shutting that down, and in a really positive way, just saying that we're not going to have that kind of nonsense here in our community. And it didn't go anywhere. And I had colleagues in other parts of the state that have had really contentious school board meetings, really contentious meetings around those types of non-issues that are being whipped up into an issue. And so I do feel very fortunate to live in Duluth and to be working with such forward-looking organizers and leaders. So we're very lucky. And one of the things that we can do then as a DFL party in a community like this is we can set the tone. We can be on the vanguard, leading where we're going next. And that is something that I think that we have done and we continue to do here in the Duluth DFL and the Senate District 7 DFL here in Duluth. Other SDs, other DFL groups throughout the state look to us. And many of them have talked to me, different representatives, when I'm at the state capitol or in different forums, and they say, wow, your Senate district is something else. I mean, the work that you're doing is so exciting and inspiring. So I just want to say thank you and really give you all the encouragement, those people who are putting in the work for our local party development and moving us forward. These fundraisers, our meetings, our caucuses, all of the things that we do as a DFL to make our community better. The work that you put in is inspiring people all around the state. The candidates that you have, that you're electing, the voters that you turn out, the issues that you're fighting for, we're fighting for here together in Duluth are inspiring people at the Capitol and all around Minnesota. So whether that's working on the climate crisis, whether that's racial justice, housing justice, all the environmental issues, clean water, labor, organized labor being a strong stalwart, organized labor stronghold here in Duluth. We are an inspiration. The work that we're doing here inspires people. And I know that it inspires me and it carries me. And I am so, so proud always to tell people that I am the senator from SD7 and that this is my community and these are our values and these are the things that we come together to fight for. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. Yes, please bid on those delicious desserts. They look amazing. I've been kind of watching the bids come in and looking at my favorites and thinking about my strategy about how I'm going to secure the desserts that I really want. So go ahead and go vote on those or go bid on those, excuse me. And also consider if you can, and I know many of the people watching this already give a lot of time and a lot of energy to our DFL, and there's different things, different gifts and different strengths that we bring to our party and our work together. But if you have the financial resources, consider giving to our local DFL, Senate District 7 DFL party, because the people doing the work need that financial help to send out those mailers, to hold events, all of the things that we do to raise awareness in our community and carry on this work. We need the financial help to do it. So consider giving, consider making a bid on those delicious desserts. And it is, can I go ahead and now introduce the Lieutenant Governor, Ashley? I next will introduce our keynote speaker. And our keynote speaker is somebody who I think all of us in Duluth have looked to for a variety of reasons for her leadership, and her strength in this administration and in our issues and our politics in general. I'm so honored that the Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, is joining us this evening to speak with us about where we're headed this next election and about her vision as we move forward in our politics and our DFL and in the state of Minnesota. We're just so fortunate to have her join us this evening. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor, for joining our Senate District 7 fundraiser. Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Senator. And I am so excited to be here. I heart Duluth, and so I'm sad that we can't be there together in person in SD7, but you are in my kitchen right now, because that's where I'm sitting, and this is where you would be if you were in my home. So welcome to the table, and I'm really glad that at least we can all be here virtually together. Thank you for inviting me tonight. Thank you for really liking dessert and democracy. Those are two of my favorite things, that two great tastes that taste great together. And just knowing that the governor and I are so grateful for all of the work that SD7 does. And Senator McEwen said it, your district is just kind of the gold standard for how we should be doing this work everywhere across the state. I know that you have, I want to give a quick shout out to our local candidates. We have some amazing candidates in Azrin and Renee and Therese running for the city council and for re-election. And of course, I am going to give a special shout out and some love to my sister, Renee Van Nett, my fellow Anishinaabe Kwe, who I adore. And of course, all of your folks who are running for school board. And I have said this before, but it bears repeating. I'm a recovering school board member, and I had the opportunity to meet former President Jimmy Carter. And I was on the school board at the time, and he said, well, bless your heart, that's the hardest job I ever had. And so it's just true. And it is one of the most important jobs as we are navigating through a moment where our young people need to see themselves reflected in their teachers and curriculum, need to know they can be healthy and safe at school. So thank you for your service, and thank you so much for stepping up. I really, really appreciate it, all of you. And I know that Rosie and Jill and Kelly and Amber, and of course, Mike also running for city council. You're just an all-star team, and I'm so appreciative. I also wanted to take a moment because you just heard from all of your all-star team of leaders who just happen to be all women. I'm just going to say that. Senator McEwen, you have just hit the ground running as you've come into the Senate and into the legislature, and have just been a complete rock star in your first year. And we are really lucky to have you in the Senate. And thank you. And my hope is that we can put you in the majority next year. And so that means that we've got a lot of work to do all across the state of Minnesota. Also, Representative Olson, who is one of my dearest people. We formed the Blanket Caucus when I was in the legislature, which was really, we were the vent, came down on the floor. So we had to wear our blankets on the floor as we fought for justice, which I think, really they also could be capes. But Representative Olson is a champion. She is a powerful leader. She has just this just calm demeanor, and she serves the people of Duluth so well, but also of the entire state, and we are so lucky to have her. And Representative Schultz, who walked you through many of the details that were in the Health and Human Services Omnibus Bill. We are so lucky to have her in that role, and children and families are so lucky to have her in that role. This last Health and Human Services omnibus bill contained so many things that will make a difference in the lives of Minnesotans who are on the margins. And it is a really big deal and so worth celebrating. And she does her homework, and she does her research, and she asks hard questions, and has been just an incredible team. So there is no doubt in my mind that SD7 has one of the strongest delegations in the legislature, and we need to make sure that we can build delegations like the one you have all across the state. So I wanted to reflect just a little bit on the last 2 years, the last 20 months. I don't think that I ever imagined that this would be the kind of circumstances that I would be serving under, or that the governor would be serving under, or any of us would be dealing with in this moment. This past year the past 20 months have impacted all of us. And just very candidly, I lost my brother Ron very early on in this pandemic to COVID in March of 2020. And that is the lens through which I saw this, and I continue to see this entire issue. And I know that there are people who have been touched in many ways by being isolated from their loved ones, by losing people they cared about, by working on the front lines to ensure that people could still have food in their bellies and could still be cared for. And for that, I am really grateful. And Minnesotans have stepped up in a tremendous way. But we also had to deal with just the racial injustice of watching the murder of George Floyd and Daunte Wright, and frankly, are in a time of reckoning. When for a long time, Minnesota and Minnesota Nice has meant that we don't talk about uncomfortable things. And our silence on those issues is why they are allowed to continue. And so we need to fight these two pandemics, the pandemic of COVID, but also the pandemic of racism. And I am grateful for the leadership in your district who's willing to dig in and to have those conversations, but also to get results. The things that I know are possible, we saw glimpses of over the last several years. And so I think we've been able to move important things. And I am really excited about what that can look like when we have DFLers all over the place. So I'm going to talk about that in just one second. But in the face of constant GOP obstruction, we've still been able to pass meaningful action for Minnesotans. Saving Minnesota Care was an incredible triumph, and many of you were involved in that fight. Historic investments, one of the largest investments in public education in recent memory. Children and families, we know that Representative Schultz mentioned the increase in the Minnesota Family Investment Program, which saw the first increase in 33 years since my family was an MFIP and I was a first grader in Mrs. Hollenbeck's class. And then we got a cost of living adjustment. So things are happening. And personally, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force that then led to the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Office. These are some of the things that we've been able to accomplish even in divided government. But here's the deal. There's so much more that we can do, and making sure that we have a Senate majority that is held by the DFL, that we continue to hold the House, means that we can expand access to affordable health care, ensure that people don't postpone care because they can afford it, pass meaningful reform on paid time to care, so paid family leave, and making sure that we don't have families who have to choose between going to work and collecting a paycheck and caring for a loved one. Those are choices that we shouldn't ask families to make, and we can get there. Continuing to tackle climate change. We know that this is an existential threat, and I am ready, and I know that all of you are ready to ensure that we are passing meaningful legislation to ensure that our future generations, my daughter, her children and grandchildren, still have a place like Minnesota with clean water, and making sure that we have clean air, and the reason why we live here and it is such a gem remains protected. And of course, addressing, and I know that that Representative Olson has been a champion here on addressing the opioid and mental health challenges that are plaguing our communities. So there's so much good work that we can do. And the way that we can do that is by working really hard. SD7 knows how to knock on doors. And I would mention knock on doors regardless of weather conditions. I have canvassed there in hot temps, in rain, and absolutely in snow. And you just know that once you knock on the door and it's snowing and someone invites you in for a minute, you got them. That is the work that you need to do and that you model for all of us. Contributing to SD7, but also, as Senator McEwen said, making sure that we're spreading the love, that we are adopting districts, that we are doing this work across the state, and having these really important, meaningful conversations, not just about facts, figures, and statistics, which as Democrats, sometimes we love to give someone a pamphlet or a flyer or email them that article, but really talking about the head, but also the heart and the gut. Why does this matter to you? And I know that that is the work that we are capable of doing, because I want to make sure that we have a Senate DFL majority, that Senator McEwen gets a gavel, and that we do a lot of good work together. We hold the House, we reelect Governor Walz and myself and the rest of our constitutional officers, because we have work to do. We are gathering today to look ahead, and I hope you feel hopeful, because I do. It's been a long slog, and we all have been through really collective trauma together, but it feels like we are turning the curve. And I know that we can rely on each other in this moment, that we can do this work together, and we are called in this moment to step up. And every election cycle we hear, this is the most important election of our time. But for realsies, it is this time. And we really need you to step up and to give of your time and your talent and your treasure and your passion, and find your role in this work, and step up. So we no doubt have a tough race on our hands, but we are ready. We are battle tested, and we are ready to do this work. So I cannot wait to be able to see all of you in person. And I just am honored and humbled to be your Lieutenant Governor, but more than anything, I'm just honored and humbled to be a DFLer tonight. So Chimigwich, for all of the work that you have done over the many years and the many cycles, for those of you who have stepped up to run and to serve, it is a hard time to be in elected office, but I want you to know there are so many people who are cheering you on and who've got your back. So thank you for stepping up. And for all of our volunteers and everyone who just wakes up thinking about how they can make the world and Minnesota a better and more just place, I am so grateful for you. So thank you for all the work that you have done, and thank you for all of the work that we will do together. And I can't wait to see you soon. Take good care.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. Oh, thank you. So we have heard from our amazing representatives and Lieutenant Governor and Senator, and now is the time for action. So we've gathered today, we've been able to do that virtually, and we have a couple asks of all of you here. First, I'm going to pull up the information for voting. Our candidates have taken an incredible time right here, because they're in the midst of campaigning. And so thank you to all of you who have made it today. So early voting has started. Election day is November 2nd. Please get to the polls. Since there's not a mayor's race and there's not a presidential race, there's not a lot of turnout, but there could be. We can call our friends, we can drive to the polls, we can really engage in democracy, because we've seen here tonight that these local races matter. They matter in our education, they matter in our investment in public health and human services, they matter in our investment in equity and how we're really trying to make a society and a Duluth where everyone is thriving. So here's the information on that. And also, please support your local DFL. I don't know if I would be in office if there weren't strong DFLers who really helped guide me and help make that possible. And that's the case for a lot of people here. Like, we had a team around us. The DFL sends out mailers, they do engage in volunteers, but that takes resources. So please take a moment to give. And thank you to everyone who bid. I think you might have 1 minute left. Like, if you want to do last minute scrambling, this is your time. I think there might be 1 minute left for some of these desserts. Thank you so much to candidates, to DFLers who baked and made just an awesome spread. And last but not least, I am really thrilled to get to invite our city council candidates. So school board members got to share their school photos. We asked city council candidates to share a childhood photo, because we're just going to have a casual conversation and get to know each other as people. I love these. So can our city council candidates unmute? And then I have a few questions. Hi, thank you for joining us. And then if you're having any technical difficulties, then Dale Watt is on and is our go-to IT person. So we have Counselor Tamanik, Azreen Owl, Mike Mayo, and then Counselor Van Nett, Chair Van Nett, thank you for joining us. And then I think we might have lost. I just want to make sure that we have everybody. Mike, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to get my video to work again.
This is classic Zoom stuff. That's totally fine. So I wanted to say thanks for joining us and get to know a little bit about all of you. So I'm curious, we got to hear some answers from our school board. Growing up, who was one of your biggest mentors and what is something you learned from them? Is there anyone who'd like to kick it off?
Take that first. My 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Shuffman, was really an important woman in my life. She took her free time, her lunchtime, her after school time, and taught us all how to knit, which I thought was so cool. And I remember one time she appointed a friend and I to do the bulletin boards, and she wasn't quite happy with the result. And she said to us, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And I remember that. She wasn't looking for perfection. She saw the potential in what we could normally do. She wasn't really happy that we didn't pull it through quite so well, and she wanted us to do better.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Who would like to go next? I'm just going to leave it to popcorn it, whoever wants to kind of jump in.
Bye.
This is funny. It's like the school board members were like really used to classrooms. They're like, yes. How about Mike? Do you mind being next?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Counselor Van Nett now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Was the question role models?
And what's something you took away from them?
Yeah, so I would say my grandparents were some of my role models. My grandpa, he played tennis into his early 90s now. My grandma's always been really active with her garden club and like in the community, and she's they both have been so involved their whole entire life and have taught me a lot of lessons about really just how they lived very simply when they grew up, and they didn't really grow into any money. And I think a lot of people in Duluth, we grow up the same way, as like we have to work really hard and earn our way through if we go to college and different things like that. And I feel really fortunate that I was able to go to college and be able to share that experience and kind of learn from others around me. And so they've just always been people, and they're still around, and I'm really grateful to have them around because they're just a wealth of knowledge for me, and I'll continue to learn from them as long as they're here. So.
Okay, real question, Mike. Do you think your grandpa could beat you in tennis?
He doesn't play anymore, but maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, he's really good. Actually, he doesn't move much. He like is stationary, but he can just keep it going. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Do you want us just to go then?
Yeah, that'd be great, Counselor Van Nett.
Thank you. Role models, I guess I didn't have much of that until I was older, and it would, by that time, after got through a lot of trauma, Native folk kind of go through a lot of trauma. And so after getting older and going through that stuff and kind of getting past some of that, probably my mom. She worked 2 jobs and went to school. And that's the only thing I ever saw. And she was a single parent. And so I learned how to be a single parent, work really hard, work a lot, and then go to school and get situated. And then kind of my stepdad's an iron worker. So kind of those hardworking backbone of steel places. And I've learned backbone of steel, work ethic, how to raise children in tough places, and kind of just develop myself and learn there. So
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. Ezreen Owl.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ezreen. I use she, they pronouns. Thank you so much for sharing. Everyone who has shared. Our role models, our mentors are very much a part of our identity, and thank you for sharing that bit. I thought a lot about this question, and I would have to say that growing up, very specifically, my role models would have been my mother and my grandmother, and very specifically because of the levels, what they've themselves have gone through to provide for their families. My grandmother and grandfather were freedom fighters, so they were fighting for the right to for independence of their land and their country in Bangladesh, and the right to speak their language. And it's really shocking to me to imagine my grandmother with her 5 kids at the time sneaking past the river for safety in the land that they call home. And so through that, they've taught me what perseverance is and what really looking out for your neighbors are, and just how to love each other is, right? Even through the harshest of times. And that I've seen kind of manifest in my mother in many ways, where she's worked, like coming from a working class family, she's worked a lot, she's given up a lot to provide for her family. And I recognize the privilege I have, and I am only here because I'm able to step on the shoulders of my mother and my grandmother. So they're definitely big role models for me of how to live, with honesty and be grounded. My political role model is actually in the current Zoom. I won't say who it is, but definitely here. And I look up to them as I see such an honest, authentic, humble individual in our state Senate. That might have been a huge hint. And my role model and my mentors now actually are part of my campaign team, people that I constantly actually look up to and just learn a lot with, whether we're learning together or we're moving in different realms of our life. They're just people who inspire me. So that's why I always say I'm really privileged and honored to have an amazing team, because I brought together all my mentors and role models and amazing peers. So those are some of my role models.
I love that we just learned like how big of hints Ezreen Owl gives. I'm excited for guessing games in the future. It's really clear the passion that you all have here, and it's fantastic to get together that tonight before the election. I'm really excited about our slate of DFL candidates, and I hope people turn out on November 2nd.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, our next question is, when did you become interested in politics? And there might be a specific moment, it might not, but please, whoever would like to jump in first, take the floor. Otherwise, we can go reverse order too.
Hey, well, if we're going reverse order is what I'm assuming we're doing, I'll start. When I became interested in politics, I thought of, it's a hard question to answer because I think I got interested in politics in so many different areas of my life. For example, when I was like probably in 2nd grade or 3rd grade, figuring out that that moving and being an immigrant, coming here at the age of 3, and then having this understanding that I will not be able to run for president, even though I have no intentions of doing that, but because of my citizenship and not being born here, even though America is my home, that was probably the first earthling. I was like, that doesn't seem fair. To fast forward to moments after 9/11, when I was, my family was facing a lot of hate and racism and xenophobia and Islamophobia, recognizing those all were stemming from political and or have been propelled by political ideologies that have been pushed into our country, to the point where, you know, I was a student at UMD and my hijab was ripped off, or I was called a terrorist, you know. I recognize that for many of us, being in politics, involved in politics is a privilege. It's something that you can choose to do. But for a lot of us, like myself, it's something that we don't have that choice to choose. We have to get involved because it's part of our identity. It's part of our community that's at risk, and to stand up and have that voice, we have to do it, and we don't have a choice. So I think, and more recently, I guess it shows in my work with MPIRG and doing social justice and NAACP as well stuff, where I more so got involved with politics or advocacy work. But frankly, to answer that question, probably my entire life, because of how I showed up and the identities that I held in the US.
Thank you for sharing that. Councillor Van Nett, would you mind going next?
Sure, thank you. Involved in politics. So I was taught and learned that Native folks don't belong in that situation, in that circle. So I never was involved early on at all. And things were really too hard for me to even understand or know what politics is until I was a lot older and I started to volunteer. I just started to hang out with people that were fun, and I thought, well, what are these guys doing? And so I went knocking on doors for a presidential race, no clue why or what I was doing or anything. I just went because people were having fun, and I was like, I want to have fun. I want to go there. So I went to do that with folks, and I just started accidentally helping people do that. And then I just kind of went away from it for a long time because I didn't see folks anymore. Just different stuff going on in life and stuff. And then I ran for school board in like 2015 because my kids weren't being heard and listened to, and nobody would listen to a poor little Indian woman or girl say whatever she needs to say about her kids, and nobody listened. And I thought, I'm gonna make them listen, and this is how. And so that's how I got into it. And then I asked my friends who were having fun, how do you do this? Like, who's where, what is the game? Like, how do you play this game? What does it look like? And is it real? Can Native people really be here? So there's that. And then I lost the school board race, which is great. I think about it now and think back, thinking where I'm at now and where I could have been then. And I thought, wow. So like the creator really has a plan, and I really appreciate that, and thinking that way to where I'm at now. And I still didn't think I should be on a city council. Like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, why do you even think you belong there or anywhere at City Hall or anywhere? And so it took me a long time to even agree to myself. And even when I was running the first time around, I could back out any second I wanted to, all the time. And I played that card all the way up to election night, and I thought, oh crap, I can't back out now. On election night, especially. So it gave me peace to know I could back out at any second and just be done with all of it. And I dealt with so much racism and so much pain in that first race from different bodies that I'm talking to here in front of me. And so I learned a lot about who's who and who I am inside the situation. It was really something else, I'll tell you. So that's kind of where I came from.
I think I'm just going to give a moment. I think you're cutting out just a little bit, Councillor Van Nett. All right, I think while we wait for Councillor Van Nett to go on it, I'd like to put it towards the next person, but I also think it's a great time to reflect on like Aaron Murphy and a lot of leaders talk about like the politics of joy and how we find joy in this and how we call people in and how we work together and make it something that we can pursue long term, because it is incredibly wearing. And so that's just a point that really resonated. And I hope we get Councillor Van Nett back on. And until then, do you mind, I'm forgetting what the reverse order was. Do you mind going, Mike, and then Therese?
Yeah. I'm really disappointed I don't get to answer the question the school board candidates got to answer about their favorite artists. So I'm going to tie that in with this one. Yeah. So basically I've been interested in politics for pretty much my whole life, back to the time when I was in the womb and my dad was having Bruce Springsteen play from the moment I was born. So that's my favorite artist. There you go. When I was growing up, because my picture of me playing the guitar, that was me imitating Bruce Springsteen, basically. And it's been something that is kind of part of my family growing up. My dad as a letter carrier and my mom as a teacher. I grew up in a union family, and it was always something that was kind of part of my upbringing, is that you really fight for the workers, you fight for the people who need that voice, and are going up against people who are in it for the money, who are in it for a whole lot of other reasons besides really caring for the greater good. And that was something that really resonated with me. And when I was in high school, actually, Emily Nygren's here. That was where I first met Emily Nygren, working on my first campaign. It was the Al Franken campaign back in 2014, I believe it was, based out of the lower level of Duluth Running Company, really weird building. But we had a whole lot of fun. And, Al Franken, that whole thing has passed now, but back then we were really excited. We had really great candidates. We were working from the governor's race down that year. And that was my first time ever door knocking. It was really intimidating. I didn't know, as someone who couldn't even vote yet, it was like really scary to go up to a door and say, hey, I'm 16 years old and I think you should vote because I can't vote. And it really makes a difference and your voice matters. So that was the first time I ever got to do any actual quote unquote political work, but going to union rallies and going to a lot of other events like that, they kind of got me inspired and energized and ready to work alongside others to fight for the common good. So that's kind of where it all started for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Mike. And then before we go to Councillor Timonek, I just wanted to see if Councillor Van Nett, did you have anything else to share? I know you got cut off there at the very end. It kind of cut out. I just wanted to open that up to you if there was anything else.
I don't know. I chatted way too much. So I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Councillor Timonek, do you mind rounding us out?
Absolutely. Well, my first election was when I was in 8th grade. I ran for student council president of my 8th grade class, and I lost to Scott DeLisi, who then went on to be the ambassador to Nepal. So I guess I can't fault him for winning that election. In high school, I was elected the service coordinator on our student council. I think it's really interesting that we had that position on our student council. And so I organized the events that we were doing as a service community. That was great. When I came to Duluth and opened my business in the 1980s, I was elected to the presidency of the Minnesota Chiropractic Association, which is a 1,400 member professional organization, the first woman ever elected to that position. And that was great. And then in the years when Steve and I were raising our family, our daughter from Korea had many health problems. So I didn't run for election again, but I served on many boards. The Human Rights Commission, when we passed the ordinance, 3 different boards with the library, the St. Louis County Health Commission. I'm now president of the Lake Superior College Foundation. I've been on that board for 10 years. And last year when I sought appointment to the council, I talked to my friend and mentor, Barb Russ, whose position I took, and I asked for her blessing. And that was a really tender moment. She came over and sat on the patio, and we had some tears and some laughs, and it was very lovely. And she gave me her blessing. And then I was unanimously voted onto council by my fellow councilors. And it's just been great. It's been very rewarding. And I look forward to this election. Thank you.
I want to say thank you so much to all of you for running. Thank you for your service. Thank you for sharing here, the moments that were you had your interest in politics, but also the discussion of when you saw yourself in there too, and how we can be a party that really helps people see themselves and then help support strong candidates to be able to be elected and serve in very powerful ways. So thank you. I know you're in the midst of it. You've got this. November 2nd is the day. Reminder to everybody here, everyone who's on here, either vote early if you're going to be out of town. Early voting is happening right now. I might be stealing Jocelyn's thunder, but I just want to say it. And then make sure you get out to the polls on November 2nd. So thank you for joining. And there's going to be some concluding words from Jocelyn Hyde, who is our SD7 president. And then I'm going to try to work with technology and get these slides back on. So let's see how it goes.
Well, this was inspiring. I so enjoyed hearing from all the candidates and our elected leaders. It was just wonderful. Thank you all for participating. And those were the best baby and school pictures I've seen in a long time. Really enjoyed that. They were so cute. Anyway, I just want to thank all the candidates again for taking time. As Ashley said, you're in the middle of your campaign and it was kind of a pain to have to do this, but thank you for doing that. And to all our elected officials that participated, thank you also. And of course, I'm going to make one more pitch, just saying, please, if you can, donate directly to SD7 or donate for those who can't, or donate to bring DFL values to every level of government because we need it. One of the reasons that the DFL is strong in Duluth and we do so well with electing DFL endorsed candidates is because of people like you who recognize that a lot of the work of democracy happens behind the scenes. It's not big splashy stuff. It's sitting there working on voter turnout efforts from your local party units, the door knocking, the phone banking that we organize, the mailers we send out. All this has to happen and has to be done every year so that we can get our DFL elected candidates in. And as I said, for this year, all these fine candidates that you've met tonight and going on and on to the future. Thank you so much for your support, whether it was with the dessert, whether it was a donation, or just getting involved with the DFL. It's true that we are all in this together. It really matters who gets into office. And to quote our favorite Wellstone quote again, we all do better when we all do better. I just want to acknowledge that money is tight for people right now. And I understand if you can, if you do have the money to donate, please do. If you don't, then and you want to be part of this process, get involved with SD7 or any of the other DFL units. We have volunteer opportunities for you like you wouldn't believe, and we're happy to have you and part of this group. I also want to point out that the Overstar dinner for Congressional District 8 is coming up on November 13th at the Grand Casino in Hinckley. We got to get Stauber out. We have to get Stauber out. I keep saying that because we have to get Stauber out. So please keep that in mind as another event that you can take part in and be supportive of the DFL. I also want to thank one more time our sponsors, which were Duluth for Clean Water, the Duluth Central Labor Body, Jen McEwen, and our senator, and of course, Chris Rubich. Thank you to all of them. Many thanks to everyone, the candidates, the speakers, our sponsors, and you can donate tonight or you can donate anytime you like by going to our website and hitting the contribute button. And if you don't have money, you can be part of campaigns. You can get involved, get in touch with us and tell us what you'd like to do. Thank you to everyone, all these sponsors, and you can see these names. These are all people that have supported us through the year. It's hard to ask for money. It's hard to do, but that's what we need to do the work we need to do to get DFL candidates elected. And as we all know from watching the last couple years, it really matters who's in office. And we want DFL people there. So with that, I think I'll say good night. And thank you again for all attending. We really appreciate it.